Okay, so today I would like to welcome Sheng-Hung Lee to our podcast. It's really wonderful having you join me, looking at someone who really understands design thinking, is at MIT at the moment, is a director of the IDSA board, and you've worked previously with IDEO, is that
Yep.
correct? Yep.
IDEO and Continuum.
Okay, perfect. So I'm really excited to have somebody with the industrial design approach. We're going to look at how we can bring in architecture, how we can bring in AI. We're going to look at what does it mean for our businesses. So welcome, Sheng-Hu. I'm super excited to have you here. Maybe if you could give our listeners a bit of an introduction into who you are and what you're passionate about. Let's start there.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. I'm sorry I cannot meet everyone in person, but I'm very glad to meet you guys, at least virtually. So I'm Sheng-Hung. I'm actually designer by training. Deirdre said I love design. I'm passionate design process. Now I really focus on service design, human behavior. And I do think design thinking and design doing are equally important. And I feel like this is really important to connect with other field, right? Business, like innovation, like other like industry, and how can we help to help us think outside the box or even create our own box, right? So that's why I'm very excited to talk about more and discuss with you guys.
So we many years ago in one of the companies I worked with, we did this exercise and said, where are each of you positioned in the box? And some of them were positioned, they analyzed the box, and others were, we don't know where the box is. And so I like your analogy of looking at the box. So let's start off with a little bit about a background. So many people haven't heard about design thinking or a little bit around what is it that you do? What is your daily work? What does it look like for the average person?
Yeah, so now I currently work at MIT H Lab as designer, and also people probably call me troublemaker. The reason is
Good.
because we have 29 scientists, hardcore scientists with a beautiful heart, and also like a human factor, like engineer. It's very multidisciplinary team. And for me, as a troublemaker, aka designer, I'm trying to like create something not just new, also like a different. I think being different is really important because change is hard, but change also beautiful. Even like small thing like ritual, right? Can you not drink coffee, drink tea every day? What does that mean to you, right? Yeah, change your behavior, but also like maybe there are other things we can modify or be more adaptive, right? And I feel like I don't have like daily routine, but I know that I always want to see things differently, different ways of look at. Yeah, something we take for granted, but you have to think about any other possibility. Like for example, like the scissors, right? We design scissors. It's so hard to redesign scissors because
Mhm.
everything optimized. Yeah, we use it for many years and it's very mature product. But how can we think differently? For example, can we use scissor just one hand, two hands, or even just two fingers, for example? So these are things will change the way we think about the product. Yeah, so I feel like I love to see things like most people go travel, but most of the time I want to see something very small, very subtle.
I do think that there's one saying that says great design is invisible. Something along those lines. I cannot remember. I think it was actually a building architect who said, when you actually are working in the design space, it's so seamless that you don't even realize it's been designed. It's quite an ambitious space to work in. So here in New Zealand, I was very privileged to be involved in the design thinking space several years ago. We had two big issues. So the first one was that they had to rethink the hospital and the experience with aged care because we've got an aging population, and so there was lots of things that needed to change. But then also we had an earthquake, a pretty huge earthquake actually, and that really meant we had to redesign a whole bunch of things. Now, what was advantageous was that they had started the design thinking process early, before the earthquake. And one of those things that really stood out was, what does healthcare look like in 20, 30 years' time? And how do we bring healthcare to the home rather than rely on hospitals and those kind of things? And those things are starting to become realized in New Zealand, which is in Christchurch, where I live, which is really exciting. So how would you describe the process? Because you've mentioned a couple of things. One, you work with a multidisciplinary team, and what's the importance of that? And then secondly, what is design thinking? What does that mean for the average person? Why is it different from, let's say, conceptual thinking or systems thinking? What's the difference?
Yeah. No, I think I'm going to draw like a poster note so you can see this. So basically,
Yeah. This is what
yeah,
you love about designers,
yeah,
right?
like people know this we call like a fuzzy front end. So most of
Mm-hmm.
the time, like design at early stage is it's pretty broad, pretty vague. And I feel like the reason why we need a multidisciplinary team or interdisciplinary team, because you never know what's the real problem. Can you frame the real challenges? Especially now, the challenges is super complicated and systematic. Aging, climate change, like lower the carbon footprint. All this stuff, like, it's not about, oh, you create the new form or shape and you solve the problem. No, it's not about form making or design a beautiful shape. That's like a very fundamental. Right now, it's a very complicated, like culture, ethnicity, right? The social infrastructure. Now I'm working on closely with the lab is focused on longevity planning, right? So we look at not just finance, beyond than finance, right? Your health, your community support, your social well-being. So it's very complicated. So you need like multidisciplinary team. I do think like everyone's designer on the team, because for me, design thinking, I know design thinking like a lot of time promoted by IDEO. Tim Brown is a very smart person
Yeah.
as a business, as a marketing tool, but also raise awareness of importance of design, right? Like we're not just, for me, actually it's not thinking, it's design thinking and making. Otherwise, we just like storyteller telling the
Yeah.
story, but nothing happened, right? You tell a story, but nothing happened. The true things for me, the easy way to understand design process, I would say we understand human needs. We have three circle, right? Viability, feasibility, and what is called viability, feasible, and also practicality. Yeah, so talk about engineering, people desire, and also technology. So three
Yeah.
circles, right? And then that's where the innovation comes from. And also, I feel important. What do you mean by understand user needs? Yeah, we go to the field to do the interview, and we're not just like asking ChatGPT, give us
Yeah.
solution, or like generative AI, give us tons of solution. No, we want to know human needs, their quotation, their story. Can we celebrate their story? And do you really know their desire? For example, we always have a used like coffee cup, right? And then in the trash bin, there's two part, recycle, non-recycle. And people think, oh, it's a paper cup. It's a paper cup and put it in a recycle. No, you can't, because it's polluted. It's contaminated. So you have to put it on recycle. But things like that, it's very small. And do you really know people's behavior? Right?
Yeah.
Can we design something? It's not about wayfinding. It's about, can you design something that people can remind themselves intuitively? Like you said, design something seamlessly. And that's really hard. I know nowadays most designers, they want to leave their signature on the design. But the truth is, yeah, you can do that like a sculpture, like an art piece. But the complicated design challenges, socioeconomic challenges, you can't do that. You have to think deeper. And it's more comprehensive. Yeah, so I feel like understanding human needs is the core of the design process. And for sure, like people with design background, we talk about more like a design skill, right? Implementation, how do you bring that concept to product, to real product on the market? But also other skill like leadership, confidence. Can we do like a team building? Because like most designer like design for themselves, including myself, right? Oh, we're very happy. We have high
Yeah.
ego. Oh, this is so sexy. It's designed for me. But do we think about, is it easy to scale? Can you think about people like a vulnerable group, different gender, different culture? So it's very complicated.
Mm. It is. And I think and you touched on a point around AI, right? And yes, AI can generate data, which is great. Gives you a starter, right? So can work through it. But the human experience is quite significantly different. And to the example that I shared earlier with the Christchurch Hospital, you don't only want to talk to doctors, you want to talk to patients because maybe the beds don't fit. And as a female who's quite short, I'm 5'1", it's really hard to get kitchen equipment. Not that I'm a cook, but those are little things that actually, if designed better, would make a huge difference. And that's why getting those different perspectives is so important in our business.
I totally agree. I think AI, like we probably think about AI stands for artificial intelligence, but I think for me, AI is more like anticipating intelligence. You anticipate, right? And then I feel like most designers like, oh, I'm a better designer now because I know how to use like a prompt-based tools. I know how to generate thousands of ideas within a second. The funny thing is, do you know what is a good taste? What is a good lifestyle? Right? Yeah, you have all this stuff. You can buy everything, can do
Yeah.
everything in the world. But the funny thing is, can you curate a home, not a house, right? Not a
Mm-hmm.
template house. It's something like with the human temperature. And you can replace by AI because they're just more powerful tools in terms of certain types of execution. But your
Mm-hmm.
life skill, it takes time. You need to accumulate it, right? Do you have great observations? For example, when I went to the Sutaya bookstore, when I work in IDEO, it's so beautiful bookstore, lifestyle curated. One of the staff, I asked, I need this book. Can you give it to me? And she came back, give me two books. One is the book with all the plastic packaging, whole new. Another one is open, so I can flick through inside. The good thing about this, it's a small detail, but what it tells me is the bookstore think about the culture, think about my needs. If I love this book, I can just go to the counter and check out with the new book with the plastic packaging. If I
Yeah.
don't want it, I can just put it back. But also, it give me an option to look inside. So these are things. Can we generate through AI? No, we can't. We
Yeah.
have to learn through these life experiences. It's so subtle, but it's pretty powerful. You think about everything is so transactional in our lives. You want things faster, yeah, go autonomous vehicle. You want
Yeah.
things like quicker, oh, pay by your palm, your facial. But you lost some human touch. You probably want to talk with the staff, talk people who work in the restaurant, or people who work in the lobby to want to know the city through this conversation. And I feel we rarely focus on that because it's really hard for most people to see the benefit for business. But we're not just in business world. We have to be more balanced.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. I think using AI as a resource is one of the resources that we use, right? But you're right, truly experiencing the nature. When I interviewed Martin, I mentioned Martin. When I interviewed Martin, he said something very similar to what you're saying. So you're on a bus or you're on the tube or whatever, but if you're on there for 2 hours, what's that experience in a chair and where's the headset? Because the headset, if you're a short person like me, doesn't do anything. It's not helpful at all. That experience for a 2-minute session might be fine, but for a 2-hour session, and that's about the human experience. It's not about the functioning of the chair or is it in the right space or is it the right size. That's about how does it look? How does it work for the people that are using that particular space? So I think it's such an important part, but I don't think many businesses really understand what the importance is. So if you had to explain why should businesses look at the way they design and manage certain things, what would you advise? So you go to a CEO and you go, this is why you need to change the way that you approaching your changes in your business and your approach and the way that you're interacting with customers. What would you advise?
Yeah, this is a great point. I think also part of the responsibility lies to designer ourselves. For example, I feel every professional discipline has their own language and the way to evaluate or measure the outcome. I think most of the time, I think it's important, not just for designer, for most people, we're not just, we need to show, not just tell.
Yeah.
How do you show that? And one of the superpower designer have is we can bring tangibility. So for example, we can just use the paper prototype to make something, to show the dimension, the sizes, the messages. It's very low cost. But people,
Yeah.
oh, I get it. I can feel the size and the scenario. And then move forward, we might could do something more high, like a high fidelity prototype.
Yeah.
From here to here, when I show this to my boss, which is my advisor, you have to convince him. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, we do this size, how it looks like, how it feel, what are the message we want to talk about. So before we move to this like more expensive prototype, it takes effort to show, not just tell. And then, especially for business-driven person, can you create like a very safe condition or scenario to let them think with you, to work?
Yeah.
And that's just like, it's not about I'm going to sell you solution. No, you have to create that condition. We collectively work on the solution together, even though the answer already began. We sometimes trust our intuition, but you have to allow that bonding happen. Otherwise, just why I should believe you, why should I trust you, right? Yeah, we hire a designer, but we want to know how can we also contribute on the pieces together.
That's very interesting because with a lot of product development and a lot of applications, digital solutions, and those kind of things, there's a lot of selling. How do we sell that? So you're talking about nurturing, which is really going through the process to ensure that the experience that has been designed or will be designed, it matches the expectation, what the person is looking for. So how would you do that? What
You mean how to tell people the solution or manage their expectation?
Yeah, exactly. I think I know what you mean. So you basically letting them explain they've got some prototypes to work with, they can draw with you. Those are the kind of things to do. But for many people in the business environment, they leave it, let's say, to the analysts to capture the needs. And none of those experiences are actually conducted
Yeah.
during that stage. Yeah.
No, I think this is a great question and also like observation, because I feel like definitely like people matters, right? You choose the right people. And also like before we design anything or talk about any like creativity stuff, I think trust building is the key. You have to build the trust before you unlock every potential business opportunities or design opportunities. And I feel building trust is like a people skill. And I do think design is a life skill. It's a people skill, right? Like before the meeting start, do you do a homework? Do you connect with them through email? Do you make a call? And do you know their strength, their weakness, what they really need? Can you design that moment before you meet each other in person? And I feel like that's the thing, not just get business, or it's more about be a human. Like you have to be that human. Like why you come to the meeting room and then just, oh, take my solution and go for it. It's hard. Why? Tell me why. Instead of explaining thousands of why, you just show them. You design the whole path, design the whole experience. Even after the meeting, do you write a thank you note? Can you capture the key learning from the meeting, right? And these are small. Do you document it? Very small, but if you connect the dots, it makes sense, because the project, the process of getting a project itself, it's a project. The BD is a process, a design process. Like when I work in IDEO, when we do like a business portfolio review, we want to know the client. We're not just want to make money. We want to know, is this the right client to work with? Can they align with our value as a design consultant, as a partner? Yeah, or we're more like executor. Can we be a thought leader? So we really measure that through our engagement. So I feel like people matters, building trust before we talk anything about design or creativity.
I think that is so important in business because there's lots of transactional things happening, but not that many relational things happening. And I suppose if I go now outside of the clients or customers, let's say, and go into the inner working space within the teams and how, let's say we've got a project that is happening within the workspace. Say there's a digital upgrade of some kind, which happens a lot, and you've now got a team of business analysts, architects, solution architects, all working on the project. And usually you do have some users, but usually you're capturing the requirements. But the way a lot of projects work is they won't necessarily allow you to, let's say, go outside of the workspace. For instance, we all working in our agile team now and all working together to get this project going, but no one's actually going and sitting and watching the users, or no one's going to the customer's actual workspace and working with our customer who's going to be using that. And there's reasons for this, right? It could be location, it could be multiple rules and safety and all of those kind of things. But it's like business teams, like agile teams, don't even think that is something that they can do. Why do you think it is? Because it happens a lot. It's just we have our meetings and we work internally, but we have no idea what's happening even within our internal businesses for the applications we're busy building for them.
Yeah, no, this is a great point. I feel like there's a component about education and also empowerment. So I think the team is like people from all different departments. I think about when I redesign Shanghai Library Innovation Space. It's a big project, and it's crazy. Like my side project, it's not connected with my job. It's I do every weekend, and the team, myself, designer, and also other people, department leader from different department, marketing, digital research, and the vice director of the library. The way I do it is I provide 3 co-creation workshop. So through the co-creation workshop, I'm selling the ideas of design process, the importance of observe what people's feedback and respect users. We talk about human-centered design a lot, right? So use that like a small touch point, which is like 2-3 hours design workshop. They on board with me. So
Yeah.
I try to break down like the final deliverable is the last like transactional. It's more like conversational. I hear you, and you along the journey with me. I show you how we do this together. I put your feedback in the process of design, and then I show the result, and then we iterated the process. So
Yeah.
somehow they don't believe. Most people don't believe. What are you talking about? How can you design the whole library innovation space without like certain skill, or oh, we need some expert? No, the whole thing we need to learn is understanding people. Yeah. And the people's quotes and story is very powerful because that's the first-hand material. Right?
Yeah.
So they come here, the library, every weekend, bring their kids. They feel like the course is boring. The course didn't grow up within. You need to different levels of the learning task. So these are things they heard. Oh, now I get it. How can we refine this? So these are things for me, like put all the pressure on one meeting. I break up like 3 design workshop. So they engage with me, they co-grow with me. And I feel like it's important to empower them. They have to own the piece. Otherwise, why I hire you? And yeah, it's a big project, but I want to feel I'm part of this.
Yeah. You said in the beginning that you work with a lot of scientists and that kind of engineering space. What is it like for you being a designer and having people that clearly like boundaries and rules and spaces be structured? What is
Yeah,
that?
I remember my first class when I master at MIT, and my first class is the fundamental of system engineering. And then I register the class. I sit the first row. Very engaging. It's my first class. I'm very like exciting. Oh wow, it's the first class. Very cool professor. And my classmates, we'll probably have 15 students, I guess. It's just not big size classroom. I'm the only designer, and rest of schoolmates from NASA or from military. So
Okay, wow.
very hardcore. And then the professor asked the question. This is a moon rover. It's the machine, it's like autonomous vehicle on the moon. And then he's asking, okay, what is missing in this picture? And I'm very engaging, very active, very passionate about this. I raise my hand. I say, what is missing is about trust. And then the whole classroom silent, and professors say, speak in front of my face. Oh my God, you're so soft. Because the real answer is like navigation system, communication system, some system is trust. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? So that's the environment I am in at MIT, which is especially in like aeroastro department or a mechanical engineering department. The very hardcore is a great, excellent scientist, also engineer, like a factual base, like we care about data. Show me is a 0 or 1. Yeah. For me as designer, I care about 0.5, 0.6. Yeah. Why is black and white? I love gray, different types of gray. So the way I do this is like we work on team for different projects, including like MIT H Lab. I think I always like actively provide like tangibility outcome to show them the ideas, and then, oh, this is what the prototype, this is a CADing, this is a sketch I draw. So you can see my office, my places.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all the sketches, the things I share. So that really helps me to communicate with them successfully. And also, at least I'm very easy to open up the conversation. Oh, this is not the right dimension, and why is this way of design the structure? Maybe we can do this. And then when I arise their curiosity, the rest is easy.
Yeah.
It's like curate and navigate.
It must be so challenging for you when you get asked those detailed questions when you've built a prototype, because concept modeling is about concept modeling. Like I always say to people, it's not real. If you go and build a house, if you go to an architect, they draw a picture of a house, and I keep saying to people, it's not an actual house.
Yes.
But people take things so literally. So imagine, especially if you've got like a 3D prototype like you're showing, they go into the details of what it should actually do rather than just, let's say, the prototype of what you're trying to do. How do you manage that? Because that is a real question. We have this as architects in enterprise business architecture or any of those things. One of the biggest challenges we have is people don't understand conceptual thinking. So they look at it and go, but that's not how the system looks. We're like, it's not meant to show you, it's meant to show you the concept of the system. So how do you manage those hard questions with your scientists, engineers?
Yeah, this is a great perspective, because when we're talking, we really like most of the time we simplify the question and challenges, right? But I think it's really important as a first step to raise that curiosity and interest. And then for sure, as designer, we still need to study and do the homework. I love the way you said, oh, this drawing doesn't mean it's a house. It's a concept. It's a master, like your sketches in the library. You have to calculate the structure, right?
Yes. Exactly.
The dimension, the measurement, that is about life and death. Yeah. So for me, like, definitely do some homework, and then I can show you these boards are the prototype for the exhibition we did at the Media Lab. Yeah, so you can see it's like a 1 meters high prototype, but this is like a mini version. Yeah, the way prototype, we have the pictures, how we lay out, where is the logo, how's the template, the format. So it's higher fidelity prototype, and then including the drawing. Oh, what's the drawing about? What's the meaning about? So I use this to communicate with the team. So they know, oh, when we really invest the time and money on production of this very expensive board, we know which photos we want to put, where's the logo, and what's the title for the board, and we curate the whole experiences in the bigger meeting room. And that's the thing that from paper to here takes a lot of effort, constant communication, and also keep refining. And also, as designer, you have to know which direction you want to move to, you want to focus on, and also you trust your team.
Yeah.
For example, when we designed the business model for Moon Rover for that class, I'm not majoring aeroastro. We have the team who major in aeroastro. They're very talented from that background. So they teach all the numbers. I'm designer. I'm really good at visualizing the ideas and concept. And then we have the business designer who really good at finance. So we collaborate together. I draw the ideas, different scenarios. I need you to evaluate, is this viable? Is it doable? And then I need,
can we do it?
I need a business designer to help me to think the whole system. Otherwise, the things go to the moon with lack of money and resource. You have beautiful dreams, but it's just a dream.
It's a similar analogy we talk about in business architecture. So not building architecture, but I say the kind of house that I want and my budget don't fit. We have to, as you say, have the feasibility and the budget, and what's not the minimum viable product, but what is the most optimized solution for what it is we want to achieve. And like in a house, if you've got lots of children, you want lots of rooms, right? Or you want one big room, but that's not going to work long term with kids. Or you want to move out in the country where you've got more space and you can do more things. So those are the kind of trade-offs that you have to continuously make with business. And that's where the rubber hits the road, right?
And also, I love the way you say like the design your house. And I also think now one of the trend I observe and I also feel is sometimes we shouldn't provide a full solution because we need to respect the users. And I feel the beauty of the home project is like actually you and the environment, your kids and the environment, the space, they co-evolving different life stages, right? Oh, like you said, many kids versus, oh, the kids grow up, they go to college, they live home. The home also change. And as designer, we can't say we provide a total solution. There's no total solution. The total solution is the user evolving with the object and they develop their own rituals and habit. And as designer, are we so eagerly to say, oh, trust me, this is how you should put this place, versus do you have that flexibility to let people to leverage, to change? Yeah, and I feel that's the beauty, like the balance. There's always a boundary.
Yeah, we often talk about businesses. I agree. We often talk about businesses. If you term a business as a house, right? We have a lot of problems with running a business. It's just like a house evolves, so do businesses, right? And again, we think conceptually in this, it's not a physical building we're talking about, but it's the concept of evolving your product lines, involving your technology, ensuring that your customers, you understand them well. And there's been some clinches in the market at the moment where marketing teams don't understand who their customer base is, and they are losing a lot of customers as a result of not appealing to their market. So it's an ever-evolving space, as you explained, like with a house, right? So the family is changing, the environment's changing, and things are changing a lot. And one of the big challenges we have, so unlike a house that's aging, it needs upgrades, it needs to be redone. Your tools that you had 10, 20 years ago, like fridges and stuff, need to be replaced. Those are all elements part of the experience of living in a home at that particular time. In business, one of the big issues we have are things like technical debt, shadowware, all of the the tools and the techniques and the technology that we're using is becoming more and more. It's just like creating more and more. And then it becomes almost impossible to let that, to figure out, is it going to be easier to create a new system? Is it going to be too hard? So sometimes it's just a matter of it's too hard to change anything because of the amount of change that's required and how often change is required. A new technology comes out and they're like, are we going to update our systems? So if you look at AI, for instance, incorporating AI into businesses, it means there's a lot of issues around what we already have. It's actually not the lack of willingness to try AI for productivity or something, but we've got all these other systems. What do we do with that? So now we just have more technical debt that we build in on. Yeah, it's a slightly different problem, but how would you approach that kind of thing from a design perspective? Because it's quite challenging. So the way that I see it visually in my head is like a broken down house where they've patched things, like a patch on patch. And that's how the systems are staying together at the moment. And then someone goes, we need to redesign this whole thing, but there's no budget.
No, I think this is great because when you're talking, I can imagine like the complexity of the challenges, right? And everything's moving around, very dynamic. It's not linear. It's not designed for linearity or designed for waste. It's also more than just designed for circularity. That's why I feel like close to design for longevity because everything's like changing and then evolving. And I feel like one of the key as designer I think is really helpful is we always need to learn how to embrace ambiguity.
Yeah.
And that's really it's an art. Everyone's like crazy nowadays, like thousands of email and not just email hassles. What happened and then somebody sick or things changing now even more flexible, like 3 times per week work in person, 2 days work from home. It's more complicated. And that, especially after COVID, this is like a new norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to attach to a certain company. I can work as a freelancer, connect
Mm.
everyone, every place around the globe, as long as I have internet, computer,
Yeah.
right? And the ideas of like embrace ambiguities, you always in this crazy, fuzzy
Like,
front end mode,
yeah.
right? Like you say, like patch. And
Yeah.
then how do you have to know what you really want? And it is okay to get lost. And
Mm.
I think it's beautiful to get lost. But the truth is that you can get lost, but you also know which direction you want to get lost. Like you move the right direction. How do you know it's the right direction? You have to try and also connect with all, say, the people, your community. We move progress, even just a little bit. You can feel that. You can see through like things or the outcome, the project or the people. So I feel that's really important skill. Because in before I go to industry, I'm more like the person like everything need to under my control. Oh, the sketches, the scheduling, people, and now I realize you can control. It's not about control. It's
Yeah.
about curate. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really about curate. It's about how do you navigate this, not about you want to grab things. No, you have to let it go.
It's very hard to control that environment. I agree with you. I
Yeah.
think it's structure things, right? You need foundations because building pieces on pieces, I do think there's important bits that we should understand the fundamentals, the basics much better. But I also think that I agree with you that there needs to be this kind of brief of being able to explore and do things as they are required rather than trying to, let's say, control everything. And they tried this with Agile many years
Mm,
ago, putting this kind of agility, but Agile is so strict now. You have to have a stand up at this time every single day, and you have to iterate, and then you have to have your team meeting at the end of the week, and
mm.
it kind of it became the opposite of what it was intended to be in the first place. By trying to put in too much structure, sometimes you make it worse when really the principle was really what was people were hoping to follow at the end of the day. Okay, so let's talk about the future. What do you see happening in the next 5 to 10 years? There's lots going on, right? So there's design, there's lots of complexity. You spoke about different problems, different workspaces. There's AI, there's big world problems like nasty ones in terms of water. AI contributes to those things like energy and water and that kind of stuff. So, what do you see happening in the future?
Yeah, I feel like nobody expect COVID, nobody expect AI 3 years ago. Now it's totally changed. And I feel for me as designer, I think that would be more critical to help us think about what are the essence of design. What's the
Yeah.
core? What are the things in education, design education? If you only teach like design software class, how are you going to survive? It changes every day. And then what's the core thing for me? Like I said, like design research, understand people. These are things like fundamentally it's a core. What else are like timeless design, right? It's like people research how to do the communication with people from different discipline, the leadership skill. And I feel that would be much more important because to be honest, every industry got transformed by AI, by all this like new norm, right? Even education's the biggest like example, like the greatest example, like you give me like 7 days, I can learn any hardcore skill on YouTube, right?
Hmm.
Right. So what is missing, right? Why the student need to pay such a high tuition to go to school, right? It's not about the software, it's not about the skill, it's about human skill, communication, collaboration. Oh, do you know how to building trust with your cohorts? Or you just like you isolate yourself in all this technology world. So I feel like that can help us really celebrate the essence of design. What are the things we really need?
Those are really good points because I think that for a lot of people, we need to understand what we're focusing on. Where do we go in the future? Because it's going to change very quickly.
Very
They're
quickly.
so fast. And you just have to learn and adapt and talk to people. I think that was one of the reasons for doing this podcast is to get multiple perspectives from people. Okay, so let's talk about maybe your current role. Are there any challenges or opportunities that you are looking into at the moment?
Yeah, I think now I'm like going to like close to wrap up my PhD journey,
Yeah.
and my project is about design for longevity, and there's overlap between financial planning, service design, system thinking. So I
Mhm.
feel like the topic like this, wow, overwhelming. I'm people from Asia. I have no clue about financial planning, especially like US versus Europe and Asia is so different. The
Mhm.
healthcare, the insurance system is so different. So for me, it's a new world, new territory. And then also this topic are so private, so sensitive, and so broad and abstract. And I feel like my current challenges is as designer, how do you tackle with this kind of complicated challenges and connect to people's life? And how do you create that safe condition, people willing to oversharing their vulnerable, their privacy to you, so you can really integrate this to the design process. And I think
Mhm.
that's really beautiful. I have the participant like transgender at age of 70, and he got divorced from his wife because they couldn't recognize this thing. The gender issue is complicated. We have like participant immigrants from China. I can't change the environment. I can't change my mom, but I can change myself.
Mhm.
I have like participant 3 times cancer survivor and realized her husband was a white collar criminal. So she's like start from scratch from age of 52, and now she
Wow.
retired at age of 67. So all different aspect of life, and people are different in different life stages.
Mhm.
So the way we think about senior people, the way we think about age, it's not just numbers, it's a life stages. And how do you design something cater to everyone's needs? And it's very sophisticated. It's not, oh, buy this financial product, you're fine. No, you're not fine. We have participant like 63, his partner 30 years old older than him. So it's
Oh, wow.
96. So imagine I'm financial free. Like I have everything I want, but What he's missing is I need the social well-being. I
Yeah.
need to other people who's going to take care of me. Right? Biologically, his partner will pass away, but the thing is, he feel lonely. And
Mm.
how to design for that. So these are things I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's a big project, but you can look at it. Every aspect is so complicated. It's not just one solution for all.
Yeah. Those are very broad use cases. That's awesome. Yeah, I can see that. It's going to be quite challenging to understand how would those different use cases and users and situations could be managed. Okay, so people who are interested in this, right? And they go, I want to know more about this. What advice would you give to those people? What are the tips that you might want to say? How do you get into this industry? And do you need a certain acumen? Because I think not everybody's a great designer, to be fair. What are those things that they would need?
I feel like very exciting, like people are interested in passion and design, because that also means like you try to change, you try to like really think differently. And my thinking, my ideas is like definitely now we have so many resources, like information overload, right? Podcasts like this one, or like you can think about books. I really love like a very iconic books. For example, I just recently read one which is called Design, a very short introduction. Yeah, so it's really great book. You look at all the design theory or like design framework, also the definition of design is very different social context. Also, definitely look at Don Norman's book, right? The latest book. He mentioned about something about life-centered design. So we're shifting from human-centered to humanity-centered. So the ideas of that is we talk more broadly. Human-centered is very like an ego-driven kind of approach. Yeah, everything designed for us, it should be come from us. I used to believe in that because yeah, everything like ergonomically should fit, but we need to think about broader system, right? Is it good for our mother nature, right? You use so many like disposable utensils. Is it good for our nature? Is it good for our next generation? So we have to think about humanity centered. Is
Yeah.
it the right thing to our context? And I feel like that awareness for me is so late. I didn't
Mm.
realize that, right? And then until like a lot of things like the environment changes, we have to do this. Otherwise, don't talk about other technology. Like you can't survive.
Mm.
The temperature goes on and the sea level goes up, and then yeah, how can you survive? You have to look at this carefully and really focus. So I feel that's a great starting point. And also just more look at all these subtle changes, open your mind and open things not through your eyes, through your heart. And
Mm.
that's really important.
Mm. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of, I suppose people are just going through the motions in many things, but really observing things. The way that we manage our food, the way that we manage our waste. One of the things that is a personal bugbear for me is you cannot have plastic bags, but everything that's in the bag is wrapped in plastic.
That's such a great, yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's so annoying. I'm like, what are you trying to solve? Like the bag, at least you can identify it. And it's strong enough to carry what's in there. But the thing is, now you've got everything's wrapped in some form of plastic, whether it's meat, dairy, or it doesn't matter what it is. So it's only solving little things. And I can't even say solving, but it's just doing these minor measures to change behavior. But actually, it's almost like people don't see because there's so much effort put on minor things that people think that is the way to evolve. But it's crazy. Why do we have things that are packaged in tiny boxes where you buy five of them when you could have just had one package?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when you get deliveries. Look, in New Zealand, we get a lot of deliveries because we are remote and we're in Ireland. But then you might order a package and then you get this big box and it's this tiny thing that's wrapped in bubble wrap. And you go, what a waste of time. It hasn't been thought through at all. But yeah, there's so many problems or wicked problems that need to be solved during this. So My final question for you, and then we'll just talk about your emerging book and how to get in touch with you. But my final question for you is, if you could go back, I know it's not going to be too far in time, but go back to when you first started this project, what advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I go back to this, I guess I will really look for more analogous example. So the reason I say that because design for longevity or longevity coach is pretty new ideas for me. So we say, oh, how do we maintain your longevity health? What does that mean? I should look at more like analogous example more. For example, people work at Apple Genius Bar. They help to maintain people's electronic health, the devices, right? Look at gardeners. The people who work gardener as a gardener, they maintain gardens health, right?
Mm.
Your dentist, your teeth health. And there are some similarity in terms of this. For example, like it's regular, it's a subscription services. You probably need to meet in person or by appointment. So something related to this new ideas about longevity coach. And I
Yeah,
feel I can expand my thought or ideas more before dive
mm,
into this. Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. And how would you have done that? Because a lot of people do things like take a sabbatical or go and travel the world or climb mountains, whatever it might be. What do you think you would have done differently?
I've I feel like sometimes at the very beginning, because I consider it is an academia research project, but also I forgot beyond this is actually it's a live project. So
Yeah.
it's at the very beginning, I'm limited by this constraint. But to be
Mm.
honest, the constraint is I give the constraint to myself. At
Yeah.
the beginning, right, I should think broader. Oh, let's try this and that more before we dive into this deeper. So that's the things I would love to
So
kind
it's
of,
a
yeah,
personal lesson learned. Yeah. It's
yes,
kind of
exactly.
like prototype it earlier before you
Yeah,
lock yourself.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been wonderful chatting with you today. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, ask you some questions, interested in your research and so forth, how can they do that? What is the best platform to use for you?
Yeah, definitely connect to, I think LinkedIn is very convenient or like my personal website and there's my email, shdesign@mit.edu. I'm happy to chat. I focus on design and also interesting challenges. Yeah, I'm very exciting and thanks for inviting me. Very
Yeah,
excited.
no
When
worries.
I talk to this, I feel like, oh, I learned myself more.
Yes. I have exactly the same experiences when I interview. As an introvert, I know people don't believe that I'm an introvert, but I am. As an introvert, yeah, you have to push yourself to do these, but I learn a lot from others while doing that. So I'm glad that you having a similar experience. The next thing you mentioned that you're busy with a book is, could you tell me a little bit more about that? When are you thinking? I know that there's never really a release date, but what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I'm very lucky that work on my book is actually the focus is on design for longevity. I'm really working on this topic, so it changed the way of thinking design. So from design for waste, like linear, used, right, dispose, and then to design for circularity. Like you
Yeah.
think about like a butterfly chart, right? Cradle to cradle. Like you think about how to reuse, like recycle, refine. Versus now, we're not just talking about the circular, also circular and moving. So we're
Mm.
evolving and changing. And I feel that really applies to most of my previous design project, library and design like a curriculum and like different ways of growth, different ways of evolving. I'm very excited to write this down, and then the goal is hopefully I can publish next year. And now I'm writing in the middle of process, design my cover, but the idea is about like a design for longevity as a new approach to rethink about the design process.
That's awesome. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your experiences. It's been wonderful. And I hope people can start to see the value of bringing in design into They're organizations, the design thinking approach or systems thinking approach, and really try to solve problems broader than the little issues that we're doing today. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Very exciting. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Okay.